"I'm your wife, can I taste it?" The shy rancher trembled, but when the bride did, he forgot Every morning, the world seemed to awaken slowly, with the gentle rustling of leaves and the faint crowing of roosters announcing the start of a new day. On this particular morning, the ranch seemed unusually calm. The dew on the grass shimmered like tiny diamonds, and a soft breeze carried the smell of fresh earth and wildflowers across the land. It was the kind of morning that promised new beginnings, though no one on the ranch could yet know what the day held. In the small, modest house at the center of the ranch, the young rancher stirred awake. He was a shy man by nature, someone who rarely spoke more than necessary and preferred the quiet company of animals to people. His life had always been simple, waking up early, tending to the animals, repairing fences, and working the land. But he had found a quiet happiness in the rhythm of these tasks. There was a sense of satisfaction in seeing the fruits of his labor grow under his care, whether it was a field of wheat, a herd of cattle, or the small vegetable garden near the house. Every day brought its own challenges, but he met them quietly, with patience and determination. As he moved through his morning routine, he couldn't help but notice how alive the ranch felt. The horses were grazing in the distance, their heads low and steady. The cows wandered lazily across the field, and the chickens clucked busily as they pecked the ground. Even the barn seemed to hum with quiet energy as he fed the animals, checking each one carefully for signs of illness or discomfort. This was a responsibility he took seriously. He cared deeply for every living creature on the ranch, and that care had earned him the respect of his neighbors, even if he rarely engaged in their social gatherings. Despite the calm of the morning, there was a nervous energy in the rancher's heart. Today was different from other days. Today, he would meet someone who had entered his life unexpectedly and changed it in ways he could hardly imagine. He had heard rumors from friends that a bride had arrived from a neighboring town, a young woman who was curious about ranch life and eager to experience it firsthand. He had never met her before, and the thought of seeing her for the first time made his chest tighten with a mix of excitement and anxiety. He had always been shy around new people, especially women, and the idea of talking to someone he barely knew made him stumble over his words in his mind even before they were spoken. As he worked, he thought about the stories he had heard. The young woman was said to be kind-hearted, adventurous, and full of life. She had grown up in the town, far from the open fields and wide skies of the ranch, and she had always dreamed of experiencing the freedom and simplicity of country life. She was curious about the animals, the crops, and the routines of a rancher's life. She wanted to see what it was like to rise with the sun, work with her hands, and feel the wind on her face as she moved through the fields. These thoughts made the rancher both nervous and hopeful. He wondered how she would feel about his world, whether she would find it charming or exhausting, and whether she would appreciate the quiet beauty he had always loved so deeply. When he finally saw her walking down the path toward the house, the rancher's heart skipped a beat. She moved with a natural grace, her eyes wide with curiosity as she took in the surroundings. She seemed to notice everything: the way the sunlight hit the grass, the distant mountains on the horizon, the animals moving about their morning routines. Her presence brought a warmth to the ranch that he had never felt before, as if the entire place had come alive in a new way. He took a deep breath, trying to calm the nervous energy that surged through him, and stepped forward to greet her. "Good morning," he said softly, his voice almost trembling. "I'm glad you're here." The young woman smiled warmly. "Good morning," she replied. "I've been looking forward to seeing this place. It's even more beautiful than I imagined." Her words made him smile, a little awkwardly at first, but with genuine happiness. He could tell she was sincere, and that made it easier for him to find his own voice. They began walking through the ranch together, and he showed her the main areas: the barn, the fields, the vegetable garden, and the pastures where the animals grazed. He explained the daily routines, how he fed the animals, repaired fences, and maintained the land. She listened intently, asking questions and showing a keen interest in every detail. As they walked, the rancher noticed how she interacted with the animals. She moved gently, speaking softly to the horses and reaching out cautiously to touch the cows. Her kindness was evident, and it touched him deeply. He realized that her curiosity was not just about the ranch itself, but about the life he had built here, a life of quiet dedication, care, and simplicity. It was as if she could see the heart of the ranch in a way that few others could. Hours passed as they explored the property, shared stories, and laughed at small mishaps, like a mischievous goat that tried to nibble her hat or a stubborn horse that refused to follow their path. With every moment, the rancher felt his shyness slowly fading, replaced by a growing sense of connection. He realized that for the first time, he was sharing his world with someone who truly understood and appreciated it. He no longer felt nervous about speaking. Instead, he found joy in explaining his routines, sharing his knowledge, and watching her reactions. By the time the sun reached its highest point, the rancher and the young woman had formed an unspoken bond. It was built on shared experiences, mutual respect, and an appreciation for the simple beauty of life on the ranch. They had not known each other for long, but the connection was undeniable. For the first time in his life, the rancher felt that someone saw him, not just as a shy man who worked with animals, but as a person with dreams, dedication, and a heart that cared deeply for the world around him. As the day drew to a close, the rancher prepared a simple meal for them to share. They sat together on the porch, watching the sun set behind the mountains. The sky turned shades of orange, pink, and purple, and the air was filled with the soft sounds of the ranch at twilight. The distant lowing of cows, the gentle rustle of the wind through the trees, and the quiet hum of life winding down for the day. They talked about their dreams, their pasts, and their hopes for the future. The rancher felt a warmth in his heart he had never known before, a sense of happiness that went beyond the satisfaction of a hard day's work. By the time night fell, stars sparkled in the clear sky, and the ranch was wrapped in a blanket of peaceful silence. The rancher realized that this day had changed him in ways he could not yet fully understand. The presence of this young woman had opened a door to new possibilities, new emotions, and a new understanding of himself. For the first time, he felt that his world was larger, richer, and more beautiful than he had ever imagined. And as he watched her settle into the guest room, the rancher knew that this was only the beginning. The quiet ranch, once his solitary world, had become a place of connection, hope, and new beginnings. The shy rancher, who had always trembled at the thought of human interaction, had discovered a spark of courage, curiosity, and joy that would guide him through the days to come. The next morning, the ranch woke slowly to the soft glow of dawn. The air was crisp and fresh, carrying the scent of wildflowers and damp earth. Birds chirped cheerfully as if celebrating a new day, and the rancher moved through his morning routine with a quiet determination. He felt different today. The presence of the young woman on his property had shifted something inside him. There was a lightness in his step and a warmth in his heart that he had not known before. For years he had lived a life of simple routines and quiet solitude, but now the world seemed a little brighter, the tasks a little more meaningful. The young woman, eager to learn about ranch life, was already up and moving when he came to check on her. She had wandered into the small garden at the back of the house, her hands gently touching the leaves of vegetables and flowers as she inspected them. She smiled when she noticed him approaching, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Good morning," she said brightly. "I can't believe how peaceful it is here. Everything feels so alive." The rancher nodded, a small smile on his face. "Good morning. I'm glad you like it. There's something special about this place when the day begins. It's quiet but full of life." Together, they started the day with simple chores. The rancher taught her how to feed the animals properly, explaining which foods each animal preferred and how to make sure everyone stayed healthy. The young woman listened carefully, asking questions and helping without hesitation. She was not afraid to get her hands dirty, and her enthusiasm impressed him. It was rare to meet someone who showed genuine interest in the work he had devoted his life to, and he felt a quiet pride in sharing his knowledge. As they worked, they began to talk more about themselves. The rancher shared stories of his childhood on the ranch, of learning to care for animals from his father and grandfather. He spoke of the long days and hard work, but also of the joy and satisfaction that came from seeing the land thrive under his care. The young woman listened intently, her eyes wide with admiration. She shared her own experiences growing up in the town, describing a life that had been filled with excitement but lacked the simplicity and connection she saw in the rancher's world. She spoke of her love for nature, for open spaces and quiet moments, and the rancher found himself nodding along, surprised by how much their interests and values aligned. For the first time, he felt that he was not alone in his appreciation for a life rooted in simplicity and care. There was a connection forming between them, subtle but undeniable, built on mutual respect and a shared sense of wonder for the world around them. As the morning turned to afternoon, they moved on to other parts of the ranch. The young woman was particularly fascinated by the horses. She had never ridden one before, but she watched with fascination as the rancher handled them with patience and skill. He explained the importance of trust between a horse and its rider, how to read the animal's moods, and how to communicate with them through gentle commands and body language. She listened carefully, asking questions and observing every movement. When he finally encouraged her to try, she was nervous but eager. With careful guidance, she mounted one of the smaller horses. At first, she wobbled, unsure of how to balance herself, but the rancher stayed close, offering calm instructions and encouragement. Slowly, she began to find her rhythm, her confidence growing with each step. The rancher watched her with quiet pride. Seeing her determination and excitement filled him with a joy he had never expected. There was something inspiring about watching someone embrace a new challenge with such courage and curiosity. After riding, they spent some time walking through the fields, talking about the land itself. The rancher explained how he rotated crops, tended to the soil, and planned the seasons. He spoke of the importance of patience and observation, of noticing small changes in the environment that could affect the entire ranch. She listened attentively, clearly fascinated by the intricate balance of nature he described. She asked questions about the animal's behavior, the weather patterns, and the techniques he used to maintain the ranch. The conversation flowed naturally, a blend of learning, laughter, and shared admiration for the world around them. Lunch was a simple affair, taken under the shade of an old oak tree near the edge of the pasture. The rancher had prepared sandwiches and fresh fruit, and they ate together while watching the animals move about their day. The young woman commented on how much she enjoyed the simplicity of life here, how different it was from the hustle of her town. She said she loved the sense of purpose that came with hard work, the way every action had meaning and impact. The rancher nodded, feeling a deep connection with her words. He had always felt that the true value of life lay in these simple, meaningful moments, and it was comforting to find someone who shared that view. The afternoon brought new challenges. A small fence had been damaged during the night, and the rancher needed to repair it before the animals wandered too far. The young woman offered to help, and together they worked to mend the broken sections, hammering posts into place and securing the wire with careful precision. It was hard work, but they laughed and joked as they worked, enjoying the shared effort. The rancher realized that this was the first time he had ever worked so closely with someone in this way, and he found that he genuinely enjoyed her company. Her energy, curiosity, and determination made the day feel lighter and brighter. By late afternoon, they had completed the repairs and moved on to tending the garden. The young woman had a natural talent for planting and caring for plants, and the rancher watched in admiration as she carefully watered each row of vegetables and checked the soil. He explained which plants would thrive in different seasons, how to rotate crops to maintain soil health, and the subtle ways the weather could affect growth. She listened closely, absorbing every detail, and offered suggestions of her own based on what she had read and learned in the town. Together, they planned a small expansion of the garden, imagining what could grow there in the coming months. As the day began to fade, the rancher and the young woman sat quietly on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant shades of orange, pink, and purple. The ranch was bathed in a warm, golden light, and the air was filled with the soft sounds of the animals settling down for the evening. They talked about their hopes for the future, the dreams they held close, and the things that made them happiest. The rancher realized that he had never felt so understood or so connected to another person. Her presence brought a sense of warmth and comfort he had never experienced before. Evening fell, and the first stars began to appear in the sky. The rancher prepared a small dinner, and they shared it together by the fireplace. The young woman spoke of her excitement to learn more about ranch life, to see the animals, and to understand the work that went into maintaining such a vast property. She expressed her admiration for his dedication and skill, and he felt a quiet pride in knowing that someone could appreciate the life he had built for himself. After dinner, they spent some time walking through the ranch under the starlit sky. The air was cool and fresh, and the silence was filled only by the distant calls of owls and the soft rustling of leaves. It was a peaceful, almost magical moment. They walked side by side, comfortable in each other's presence, sharing stories and observations. The rancher felt a growing sense of trust and companionship, something he had never expected to find in such a short time. By the time they returned to the house, the ranch was quiet, bathed in the soft glow of the moon. The young woman settled into her room, and the rancher reflected on the day. It had been full of learning, laughter, hard work, and connection. He realized that this was more than just a simple day on the ranch. It was the beginning of something new, something meaningful. The shy rancher had discovered that sharing his world with someone who understood and appreciated it could bring a joy he had never imagined. As he prepared for bed, he felt a sense of calm and contentment. The day had been exhausting but fulfilling, filled with moments of learning, laughter, and connection. He realized that life on the ranch, once quiet and solitary, was becoming richer and more vibrant. The young woman's presence had opened new possibilities, new experiences, and new emotions. For the first time, he felt that his life was not just about routines and work. It was also about connection, understanding, and shared moments of joy. And so, the night fell on the ranch, peaceful and serene, with the stars twinkling overhead and the land resting under the cool embrace of evening. The shy rancher, once hesitant and reserved, had taken another step toward a life filled with companionship, learning, and the quiet happiness that came from sharing one's world with someone who truly cared. The day had been long, but it had been full of meaning, and the rancher drifted to sleep with a heart lighter than it had ever been, ready to face the days ahead with hope, curiosity, and a newfound courage. The next morning arrived with a gentle hush over the ranch, the sky, painted in soft shades of pink and gold. The rancher woke before sunrise as usual, feeling a quiet excitement stirring within him. The days spent with the young woman had brought a subtle change to his life, a spark of energy, a new sense of purpose, and a lightness in his heart that he could hardly describe. Though he was still shy and reserved, he felt more confident, more willing to share his world with someone else. When he stepped outside, he saw the young woman already moving about near the barn. She was helping feed the chickens, laughing softly as one of the hens pecked curiously at her shoes. The rancher smiled to himself, quietly appreciating her enthusiasm and gentle spirit. He had learned that she approached every task with care and curiosity, never hesitant to learn and always respectful of the work involved. Her presence had turned ordinary chores into shared adventures, each moment filled with discovery and laughter. "Good morning," he said softly, though he felt a slight nervousness in his voice. "Good morning," she replied cheerfully. "I couldn't wait to start the day. There's so much to see and learn here, and I want to do it all." Her excitement was infectious. The rancher felt his shyness fade slightly as they worked together to finish the morning chores. They moved through the stables, brushing and feeding the horses, checking the cattle, and making sure each animal was healthy and comfortable. The rancher explained small details about animal care, how to recognize when a horse was stressed, the importance of checking hooves, and how to keep the cows calm during feeding. She listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions and absorbing everything he said. Her curiosity was genuine, and her respect for the animals and the land impressed him deeply. After the chores, they walked toward the open fields. The young woman had brought a notebook with her, eager to record everything she saw and learned. She asked about planting patterns, seasonal crops, and how the rancher managed the land during different weather conditions. He explained everything patiently, sharing stories of past seasons, lessons learned, and the small joys of tending the land year after year. She laughed at some of the mishaps he recounted, like the time a mischievous goat escaped into the vegetable garden, but listened seriously when he spoke about challenges that required patience and careful planning. As they moved across the fields, the rancher noticed how the sunlight caught her hair and made her eyes sparkle. There was a quiet intensity in her curiosity, a genuine desire to understand and experience life on the ranch. He realized that her presence was not just changing the way he felt about his daily routines, but also making him see the ranch in a new light. He began to notice the beauty in small details he had long overlooked, the pattern of dew on the grass, the gentle sway of the trees in the wind, and the soft hum of nature in the background. Everything seemed brighter, more vivid, and more alive. Later in the morning, they reached the far corner of the ranch, where a small creek ran through the property. The water sparkled as it moved over smooth stones, and the sound of the flowing water was soothing. The rancher explained how the creek provided a vital source of water for the animals, and how he ensured it stayed clean and healthy. The young woman listened with fascination, crouching near the edge of the water to watch a family of ducks swim gracefully. "Do you ever get tired of all this work?" she asked, her voice soft but curious. The rancher thought for a moment, considering his answer. "Sometimes it's hard, yes. The work is never-ending and the land can be unforgiving, but it's also rewarding. Every task I complete, every animal I care for, every plant that grows, it all reminds me that what I do matters. It gives me purpose." She smiled warmly. "I understand. There's something special about seeing your hard work make a difference, isn't there?" He nodded, appreciating her insight. For the first time, he felt that someone truly understood the dedication required to maintain a ranch, the balance of effort and reward, and the deep satisfaction that came from seeing life thrive under one's care. Her words and presence gave him a sense of companionship he had never felt before, a quiet confidence that he could share his world without fear of judgment or misunderstanding. After spending time at the creek, they returned to the main house to prepare a midday meal. The young woman offered to help in the kitchen, chopping vegetables and arranging ingredients while the rancher tended to the stove. Their conversation flowed easily, from discussing favorite foods to sharing small stories from their childhoods. The rancher learned that she had grown up near the town, surrounded by buildings and noise, yet had always longed for open spaces and the quiet rhythm of nature. Her dream of experiencing life on a ranch was now coming true, and he felt honored to be part of that journey. Lunch was simple but delicious, a reflection of the fresh ingredients from the garden and the care they had both put into preparation. They ate on the porch, enjoying the warm sunlight and the gentle breeze. The rancher felt a sense of calm he had rarely experienced. For years, his life had been predictable and solitary, but now it was filled with shared moments, laughter, and meaningful conversation. He realized that his connection with this young woman was growing deeper with each passing day. The afternoon brought another opportunity for learning. The rancher decided to teach her how to repair fences properly, explaining the importance of securing posts, tightening wires, and ensuring the safety of the animals. She listened attentively, following his instructions with care and asking questions when unsure. Together, they worked side by side, hammering, measuring, and laughing at small mistakes along the way. The rancher felt a sense of pride, not only in her determination and skill, but also in their growing teamwork. It was a joy to see someone embrace the work with such care and enthusiasm. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, they moved to the orchard at the edge of the ranch. Rows of fruit trees stretched out before them, their branches heavy with ripening apples and pears. The rancher explained how he cared for the trees, from pruning to fertilizing, and how he ensured a healthy harvest each year. The young woman listened carefully, examining the leaves and fruit, asking questions about pests, soil, and weather patterns. She seemed genuinely fascinated by every detail, and the rancher admired her dedication and curiosity. While picking a few apples for a snack, they shared stories about their hopes and dreams. The young woman spoke of her desire to travel, learn about the world, and experience different ways of life. The rancher listened, intrigued by her adventurous spirit. He shared his own hopes, speaking quietly about his wish to see the ranch flourish, to live a life filled with purpose, and to one day pass on his knowledge to someone who could appreciate it. Their conversation flowed naturally, a mix of laughter, curiosity, and quiet reflection. As the day turned into evening, the rancher prepared a small outdoor fire, and they sat together nearby, enjoying the warmth as darkness settled over the ranch. The animals were calm, the air was cool, and the night sky unfolded in a blanket of stars. They spoke softly, sharing observations about the stars, the night sounds, and the peace of the land. The rancher realized that he had never felt so content, so understood, and so connected. The shy man who had once trembled at the thought of conversation now found comfort and joy in the shared silence and gentle companionship of this young woman. Before heading inside, they took one last walk through the pasture, watching the moonlight glint off the creek and illuminate the open fields. The rancher felt a sense of gratitude and wonder at the transformation occurring in his life. For the first time, he realized that his world, once quiet and solitary, could be shared, appreciated, and enriched by the presence of someone who truly cared. The young woman had brought more than curiosity and energy. She had brought connection, understanding, and a renewed sense of joy. When they returned to the house, the rancher felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. The day had been long, filled with learning, work, and shared moments, yet it had also been deeply rewarding. He reflected on how much he had grown in just a few days, how his confidence had increased, how his heart had opened, and how the simple act of sharing his world had brought a sense of fulfillment he had never imagined. As the night deepened, the rancher prepared for bed with a calm mind and a light heart. The young woman had settled in for the evening, reading quietly by the window, and he could hear her soft hums as she flipped the pages of her notebook. He realized that this day, like the one before it, had brought them closer, deepening a bond that was gentle, meaningful, and full of promise. And so the ranch lay quiet under the stars, the land resting in the stillness of night, while two hearts, one shy and reserved, the other curious and eager, grew closer with every shared task, every conversation, and every simple, beautiful moment. For the rancher, the shy man who once feared connection, life was opening in ways he had never expected, and he felt ready to embrace whatever the days ahead might bring. The morning sun rose slowly over the ranch, casting long shadows across the open fields. The air was cool and fresh, filled with the scent of grass and soil. Birds chirped cheerfully as the rancher moved through the yard, his movements steady and familiar. Today, however, there was a new sense of anticipation in his heart. Over the past few days, life on the ranch had taken on a new dimension. The presence of the young woman had turned ordinary routines into shared experiences, and he felt a quiet excitement for what the day might bring. He found her already awake, standing near the garden and carefully examining the plants. She looked up and smiled when she saw him, her eyes bright with curiosity. "Good morning," she said softly. "I was just checking the garden. I think the tomatoes are almost ready to pick." "Good morning," he replied, smiling back. "They're looking very healthy. You've done a great job helping care for them." There was a calm, easy rhythm to their interaction, a shared understanding that had grown naturally over the last few days. They moved together through the morning chores, feeding the animals, brushing the horses, and checking the fences. The rancher explained small details about the care of each animal, showing her how to notice signs of discomfort or stress, and how to approach each creature with patience and understanding. She listened carefully, following his instructions and asking thoughtful questions that revealed her genuine interest in learning. After completing the chores, they decided to take a walk through the fields to check on the new crop of vegetables. The young woman carried a small notebook, ready to record anything she found interesting. She asked about the different types of plants, how they were nourished, and the importance of timing in harvesting. The rancher explained everything in detail, sharing stories from previous seasons and the lessons he had learned from trial and error. He found himself enjoying the teaching, not just because he loved the work, but because she listened with such genuine curiosity and respect. As they walked, the rancher noticed how naturally she moved through the land, careful not to disturb the plants or animals, yet curious about everything around her. There was a quiet admiration in the way she observed, a willingness to learn that made him feel proud. He realized that sharing his world with someone who appreciated it so deeply was a rare gift, one that brought him both joy and a renewed sense of purpose. The morning passed quickly as they worked together, planting new seeds, tending to the garden, and repairing a small section of the fence that had been weakened by the wind. Each task brought them closer, not only in cooperation but in understanding and trust. The rancher found himself speaking more openly, sharing memories and stories that he had rarely told anyone before. She listened attentively, offering encouragement and sharing her own experiences, creating a sense of connection that was both comforting and exciting. By midday, the sun had climbed high into the sky and the air grew warmer. They took a break under the shade of a large oak tree, enjoying a simple meal of bread, cheese, and fresh fruit. As they ate, they spoke about their dreams and aspirations. The young woman shared her desire to explore the world, to experience new cultures, and to understand different ways of life. The rancher listened, intrigued by her adventurous spirit, and shared his own hope of seeing the ranch flourish, of learning new techniques, and of building a life that balanced hard work with meaning and joy. After lunch, they focused on the orchard at the far end of the property. Rows of fruit trees stretched out before them, their branches heavy with ripening fruit. The rancher showed her how to carefully prune the trees, remove damaged leaves, and inspect for signs of pests or disease. She followed his guidance with care, her enthusiasm evident in every action. They worked side by side, laughing at small mistakes and celebrating successes, creating an atmosphere of teamwork and mutual respect. As the afternoon sun began to dip toward the horizon, the rancher decided to teach her about irrigation. He explained how water was distributed throughout the fields, the importance of timing, and how to maintain the channels to ensure each plant received the right amount of moisture. She listened intently, asking questions and offering observations that revealed her understanding. Together, they adjusted the irrigation system, checking each line and ensuring that the water flowed evenly. The task required patience and attention, but they worked seamlessly as a team, and the rancher felt a deep satisfaction in seeing her learn and succeed. Once the irrigation work was complete, they moved on to the pasture, checking on the horses and cattle as the sun began to set. The young woman gently approached each animal, speaking softly and observing their behavior. The rancher watched her with a sense of admiration, realizing that her care for the animals was as genuine as his own. He felt a deep respect for her kindness and dedication, and it made him reflect on how much his life had been enriched by her presence. Evening fell, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange, pink, and purple. They walked together toward the barn, enjoying the quiet beauty of the land bathed in the soft glow of sunset. The rancher felt a sense of peace and contentment, a rare feeling that came from knowing that he was sharing his world with someone who truly understood and appreciated it. The young woman spoke softly about the beauty of the land, the sense of freedom it gave her, and how much she had learned in just a few days. He nodded, feeling a growing connection that went beyond words. Back at the house, they prepared a simple dinner together, enjoying the fresh ingredients from the garden and orchard. The conversation flowed easily, ranging from favorite foods to childhood memories to hopes for the future. The rancher felt a sense of warmth and joy, realizing that life on the ranch was no longer just about routine and work. It was about sharing experiences, learning from each other, and building a meaningful connection. After dinner, they stepped outside to watch the stars appear in the night sky. The ranch was quiet, the animals settled for the evening, and the air was filled with the gentle sounds of nature. They walked along the path near the creek, the moon casting a silver glow on the water. The rancher spoke about the constellations, telling stories of the stars and their significance in the lives of those who lived off the land. She listened with fascination, asking questions and sharing her own knowledge, creating a sense of camaraderie and wonder. As they returned to the porch, the rancher reflected on how much had changed in such a short time. The shy man who had once preferred solitude now found himself enjoying companionship, conversation, and shared experiences. The young woman's curiosity, kindness, and willingness to learn had brought a new energy to the ranch, transforming it into a place of discovery, growth, and connection. They sat quietly, enjoying the cool evening breeze and the peaceful sounds of the ranch. The rancher felt a deep sense of gratitude for the day, for the work accomplished, and for the bond that was forming between them. For the first time in his life, he realized that life on the ranch could be more than just hard work and routine. It could be filled with joy, learning, and meaningful connection. As the night grew darker, they went inside to prepare for bed. The rancher reflected on the past days, amazed at how much he had learned about himself and how much he had grown. The young woman had brought more than curiosity and energy. She had brought companionship, understanding, and a new perspective on life that he would carry with him forever. With the ranch quiet and peaceful, he settled into bed with a calm heart. The day had been long and filled with activity, yet it had also been rewarding, full of laughter, learning, and connection. The shy rancher had discovered that sharing his world with someone who appreciated it could bring happiness and fulfillment beyond what he had ever imagined. Outside, the stars sparkled in the clear sky, the gentle sounds of the animals drifting through the night air. The ranch, once a place of quiet solitude, had become a space of warmth, learning, and companionship. The shy man, who had once trembled at the thought of human connection, now looked forward to each new day with hope, curiosity, and a growing sense of joy. And so, as the ranch lay under the serene night sky, both hearts, one reserved and cautious, the other eager and curious, rested peacefully, ready to embrace the adventures, challenges, and shared moments that tomorrow would bring. The days ahead promised more learning, laughter, and discovery, and the shy rancher felt ready to face them with an open heart and a renewed sense of purpose. The morning air was cool and fresh as the rancher rose to begin his day. The soft glow of dawn stretched across the fields, painting the landscape with warm golden hues. He felt a quiet excitement, knowing that today would be another day of shared work and discovery with the young woman. Over the past days, she had become an essential part of the rhythm of his life, transforming ordinary routines into moments filled with learning, laughter, and meaningful connection. He found her in the garden, already tending to the vegetables with gentle care. She looked up and smiled warmly as he approached. "Good morning," she said. "I thought I'd start with the garden. The plants are looking amazing." "Good morning," he replied with a smile. "You've done a wonderful job. I think the harvest will be excellent this year." The rancher admired her dedication. From the way she cared for the animals to the way she studied the land, she approached every task with curiosity, patience, and respect. Over the past days, he had noticed subtle changes in himself as well. He spoke more freely, laughed more openly, and felt a growing sense of confidence that had been absent for much of his life. Her presence had gently nudged him out of his quiet solitude and into a world that was richer, fuller, and brighter than he had ever imagined. After breakfast, they began their morning chores together. Feeding the animals, brushing the horses, and inspecting the fences had become a familiar routine, but today it carried a sense of excitement and anticipation. The rancher explained small details about animal behavior, shared tips for handling unexpected challenges, and showed her how to make daily observations that could prevent problems before they arose. She listened attentively, asking questions and offering thoughtful observations of her own. Their teamwork flowed naturally, and he realized that he had never experienced such harmony with another person while working. Mid-morning brought a visit to the orchard. The trees were heavy with fruit, their branches bending gracefully under the weight of apples and pears. The rancher taught her how to prune and inspect the trees, explaining how to encourage healthy growth and prevent disease. She carefully followed his guidance, her hands gentle and precise, and he felt a sense of pride in her dedication. Together, they harvested some of the ripest fruit, laughing as they occasionally missed a branch or dropped an apple. The lightness of their laughter filled the orchard, creating a sense of joy and camaraderie that the rancher cherished deeply. As they carried baskets of fruit back to the house, the young woman spoke about her admiration for the rancher's life. "It's amazing," she said. "All of this, your work, your care for the land and animals, it's inspiring. I've never seen someone so dedicated to something they love." The rancher felt a quiet warmth in his chest. Her words were sincere, and he realized that she truly understood the life he had built. For years, he had worked alone, feeling proud but also isolated. Now, sharing his world with someone who appreciated it so deeply brought a sense of fulfillment he had never known. After putting away the harvest, they prepared a light lunch and ate together on the porch, enjoying the warm sunlight and the peaceful sounds of the ranch. Their conversation flowed easily, moving from topics of daily life to dreams, memories, and small hopes for the future. The rancher found himself opening up in ways he hadn't before, sharing stories of his childhood, his early struggles on the ranch, and the quiet joys he had discovered over the years. She listened with genuine interest, offering encouragement and sharing her own experiences. In the afternoon, the rancher suggested they check on a small section of land that had been recently cleared for planting. The young woman followed eagerly, carrying tools and supplies. Together, they measured and prepared the soil, discussing what crops might thrive in the upcoming season. He showed her how to test the soil, plant seeds evenly, and care for young plants as they grew. She listened carefully and followed his instructions, her enthusiasm evident in every movement. The rancher felt a sense of pride in her growing skills and a deep satisfaction in their shared effort. As the sun began to lower in the sky, they moved to the pasture to care for the animals one last time. The rancher explained the importance of observation, noting small details in behavior that indicated health, mood, or comfort. The young woman approached each animal gently, speaking softly and moving with care. Watching her, the rancher realized how much she had learned and how naturally she had adapted to life on the ranch. Her curiosity, patience, and attentiveness made her presence invaluable, and he felt a quiet gratitude for her companionship. Evening approached, painting the sky with brilliant shades of orange and pink. They walked along the edge of the fields, enjoying the view of the mountains in the distance and the golden light reflecting off the pasture. The rancher felt a sense of peace and fulfillment, recognizing that the bond between them had grown stronger with each shared task, each conversation, and each quiet moment of understanding. "Today has been wonderful," the young woman said softly. "I've learned so much, and I feel like I'm starting to understand this life, the rhythm, the patience, the care." The rancher nodded, feeling a quiet joy in her words. "It's been a special day. You've brought so much energy and curiosity to the ranch. It's made everything feel new and exciting." As night fell, they prepared a simple dinner and sat together by the fireplace, the warm glow illuminating their faces. They spoke about the lessons they had learned over the past days, the challenges they had overcome, and the growth they had experienced together. The rancher realized that life on the ranch, once solitary and routine, had been transformed by her presence. The companionship, understanding, and shared purpose had opened a new chapter in his life, one filled with connection and hope. After dinner, they stepped outside to enjoy the quiet of the night. Stars twinkled above, and the gentle sounds of the animals settled for sleep. The rancher spoke softly about the constellations, telling stories of the stars and their significance in guiding travelers and marking seasons. She listened, fascinated, asking questions and sharing observations she had made over the past days. Together, they walked through the pasture, their steps in harmony with the rhythm of the ranch. The rancher felt a deep sense of gratitude. He realized that the shy, reserved man he had been was no longer alone. Through shared experiences, laughter, and learning, he had discovered a connection that was gentle, meaningful, and lasting. The young woman had brought not only curiosity and energy, but also understanding, respect, and companionship. She had become a part of the rhythm of the ranch, and he could no longer imagine his days without her presence. As they returned to the house, the rancher reflected on the journey of the past days. The ranch, once a place of quiet routine and solitary work, had become a space of learning, joy, and shared growth. He had discovered that life could be richer when shared, that connection could bring fulfillment, and that the simple moments, tending the land, caring for animals, sharing a meal, could hold profound meaning when experienced together. Before retiring for the night, they sat quietly on the porch, listening to the soft sounds of the ranch under the moonlight. The air was calm, the animals at rest, and the land serene. The rancher felt a sense of contentment he had never known, a deep peace that came from understanding, companionship, and shared purpose. The young woman, sitting beside him, smiled softly, her presence a gentle reminder of the beauty of connection and the joy of discovery. The night deepened, stars sparkling brightly in the clear sky. The ranch lay quiet and peaceful, a place transformed by work, learning, and shared moments. The shy rancher, once hesitant and reserved, had grown in confidence, understanding, and joy. He had discovered that life could be meaningful and fulfilling when shared with someone who truly cared, and that even the simplest routines could become extraordinary experiences. As they finally prepared for sleep, the rancher felt a deep sense of gratitude and hope. The past days had been filled with growth, laughter, learning, and connection. He had discovered a new way of seeing his world, one where work, care, and companionship intertwined to create a life rich with meaning. The young woman's presence had transformed the ranch, and more importantly, it had transformed him. And so, under the gentle glow of the moon and the quiet hum of the night, two hearts rested peacefully. The shy rancher, once reserved and solitary, had embraced connection, curiosity, and joy. The young woman had found a place of learning, discovery, and belonging. Together, they had created a space where life on the ranch was no longer just about routine or work. It was about shared moments, mutual respect, and the quiet happiness that comes from understanding, caring, and growing together. The night passed quietly, promising another day of discovery, growth, and companionship. And for the first time in a long time, the rancher felt that his life, once simple and solitary, was now filled with warmth, hope, and endless possibilities.